If they have the educational background, they have the experience, and they can hit the job running with both feet with little or no training, not a problem at all. But to bring someone in that is brand new and fresh, that we're going to have to put a lot of time and energy in training that individual to be able to do that job, only to end up having them losing them to someplace else down the road. That I have a difficult time. And what I guess I don't know is that if council can, depending on who the auditor chooses to recruit to fill that position, if we can assign a pay grade, let's say I'm just making up numbers, but could we assign a pay grade, 8 to start, and then 6 months later, depending on how that person performs, we could up that pay grade, and then look at it a year down the road, 18 months, 24 months. I don't know if I'm assuming I can't think of a reason why we couldn't do it that way until we change the compensation system, but that's kind of where my head's at on this subject. Okay, so.
I agree.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Julie didn't want to hire anyone until we had a pay grade or a pay to tell the person or to advertise. So we can't hire anybody until you make a decision.
Well, could we make it, conditional, I've got a copy of the job description. But what I don't have is a pay grade, let's say it's a pay grade 14, pay grade 15, because that's on the top of the scale that Lori Seelan had recommended, right? And there's about an $8,500 difference from the bottom of that pay scale to the top of that pay scale. So to me, that compensation is interdependent on the qualifications of the candidate that she's looking to recruit. And that's where I have an issue.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's fair. Unfortunately, that system isn't in play yet to give the range. And we may be forced for the moment to do something in that nature. So as Julie said, she's going to be hamstrung in the next month or so if we table this?
Well, currently is that position a pay grade 8? I think it is. So currently there is a pay grade assigned to that position, and it is a pay grade 8.
Right.
Now the challenge with it is because that job description is really, and personally, this is just me speaking on myself, I don't want to be called a payroll clerk, because actually that position is, I'm going to call it the director of employee benefits and compensation. So that role and responsibility takes in employee benefits, because it's onboarding new people, you got exit interviews, and it's managing all of the group medical, perf, blah, 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 blah. So the challenge, especially on the employee benefits, if we recruit somebody that doesn't have very little in the way of knowledge or skill sets in that area, that's kind of a steep learning curve. And I'm assuming that the learning curve on, the LAO system and our compensation, because we run, at the end of the year, we had 174 employees. So there's a level of skill set that individual needs to have. And Susan, what I don't know, maybe you can address, again, let's go back to the question, could we for right now hold it at a pay grade 8? And depending on the qualifications of the individual that she's looking to put into that position, we match the pay grade with the qualifications of this individual. So in other words, in a private sector, the private sector, HR recruits, right? And then they send a letter out to offer a person, right? A benefit package based on their skills, so on and so forth. Is that something that we have, the flexibility of being able to manage that way?
That is difficult to accomplish in the public sector. Understand that. And your pay grade of pay grade 8 is for the payroll clerk that is defined as a position in the auditor's office, not payroll and HR. So she can't advertise this position until you establish a pay grade for it.
Don't we have a provision in the salary ordinance or the handbook of a 90% of pay grade for the first 60 days or something like that?
During a probationary period. I mean, it's common to have a probationary period.
I think
So-
we had one, and I don't know if that was countywide or if that was strictly for the highway department or,
Countywide.
okay. Is it still in place? Okay. So we could make that provision depending on qualifications. If the person comes in and is well qualified and trained and ready to go, then we can do 90%.
Yeah, you know what I was
for the first
thinking?
30 days
Darren,
or 90 days, depending on qualifications.
I just realized that I should have pulled that job description and printed it off, because I don't know what the qualifications, I'm assuming in that job description, there are qualifications that one must meet in order to be able to apply for this position. I'm assuming. Now, what I don't know is what are those qualifications? I mean, is that walk and talk and chew gum, and have a 40-20 vision? I mean, I have no idea. So one of the things I think I made a mistake is I didn't read the job description to see what the qualifications in that job description are. Because do we establish a pay grade? Do we establish a pay grade on the required job, the job qualifications for the person?
Yeah, historically, it seems like we sign the job salary grade to the job, and we go with what we get, make the best of it. And either we start low, and we may get.
Gary, we've got an enormous problem.
I
with
totally
employee
agree with
turnover.
you.
I mean, we
Totally
have 50% of the employees less than 5 years experience in the county, so.
I agree, and that's what, hopefully, this new thing with Van Neuren and Shealy will give us some flexibility to adjust for that. Diane, you have a question?
I would like to speak to the council.
Sure.
Is the microphone still on?
Yes. Yep.
My name is Diane Davern. I work in the assessor's office, and I'd like to raise some concerns regarding a recent salary study and classifications for a new position, which I heard in a meeting was supposed to be in pay grade 14. Could you please clarify how much you spent on this study? Because it appears the results are being disregarded and overgrading this new role. Historically, HR and payroll functions were managed in the auditor's office when I first started, and it was a pay grade 8 or 9, and you can look back on that. What was the designated pay grade for those responsibilities at the time? For reference, right now, elected officials are typically classified as a pay grade 16 or 17. I am currently classified as a pay grade 9, yet all first deputies, which I am, assume full responsibility for that office holder's duties in their absence. Does that current classification accurately reflect my responsibilities? Additionally, I'm required to participate in continued education for a state mandated stipend. Will this new position require a college degree or similar qualifications? I have over 20 years experience in 2 offices, along with educational stipend. My compensation should reflect the level of experience and my responsibilities, especially when compared to a newly hired employee. Unfortunately, it does not appear that this is the case. The situation is discouraging and feels like a disservice to the dedicated employees who have committed many years to this organization. Many of us possess valuable institutional knowledge that this office relies on, meaning the council. Yet our efforts seem to be acknowledged or not rewarded accordingly. Finally, I'd like to ask, what happened to the initiative to reduce costs? The current approach seems inconsistent with this goal. I appreciate your attention to these concerns and respectfully request a review of your decision and that you make pay grades according to your current experience.
Thank you. Appreciate that. It's good insight. Want to call it?
No, not really. Scott's got to table it. I'm going to motion second Scott's motion to table this. Did you make a motion, Scott, to table it? Yeah.
Okay, no further discussion?
So this is still going to be considered at a pay grade 14?
No, we're going to review further. Jim had some questions. The whole system is potentially in flex for Wagner and Shealy is doing. So.
But after 20 years to be a pay grade 9 and you take a new employee to a 14, that's an insult. An absolute insult to all your employees that work here currently.
Every county employee's payroll is under review right now with Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy. We're waiting on that. Because
Then you should be making a payroll of 14 to start with. It's unfair to every employee that works here. First deputies have to take the responsibility of an elected official that's only a 16 or a 17. Look at how many years your elected officials have sometimes been in these offices.
I understand.
It's disheartening. It makes people, why do you think people are leaving? Because you're disrespecting them by these pay grades.
That's what we're trying to address.
Thank you, I agree with you.
Thank you. Okay, anything further? Motion's been made, willing to be seconded?
Jim second.
He's second.
Jim did.
I know, so it is seconded,
So
so
let's vote on it, be done, we'll move on.
go ahead, Sandy.
Yes?
Judy?
Yep.
Scott?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Joel?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
All right. Next item is the Indiana Department of Revenue innkeeper's tax, not the actual ordinance we just passed, but how the
In
money
time, it's referred to as in time.
in time, how the money is collected is another issue. So, we are responding to the needs of the community.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Got it. You want one for your record?
Yes, thank you.
There you go. Susan. There you go. 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we had an individual at a special session meeting that brought to my awareness that they, as they collect innkeeper's tax, which has to be paid to every 30 days, along with the food and beverage tax, I found out that those individuals actually had to fill out paperwork and then either drive into the treasurer and submit it, or I suppose you could mail it to the treasurer. But when I found that out, I just thought, what are we, 1972, operating with carbon,
NCR.
yeah, what do you call it?
copies?
Carbon copies, yeah, we have carbon paper.
Mimeograph?
Yeah, right. Yes. So I'm thinking, okay, wait a minute, whoa, this is, we get smartphones today, right? So anyway, I took it on myself and I reached out and took some time and worked my way through the Indiana Department of Revenue. And what you have in your hands was emailed to me. It is the actual ordinance that was passed by Owen County. And the legal counsel, a guy by the name of Jeff Rainey, he emailed this to me. And I guess, Susan, all you gotta do is delete Owen and pop in Brown County. And basically, if we can, pass this, get this thing passed, then from there, we can send, I've got the name of the individual we send it to, okay, because it's actually, there's another department called the Business Tax Compliance Department. And we submit this ordinance to them, and voila, everyone that collects innkeeper's tax can use the in-kind system, right? And, get into the 21st century. And then secondly, I had an individual tell me that, well, we can't do this because, gee golly whiz, the Department of Revenue will hang on to the money and they won't give it to the county. Well, that's categorically false. And so I've got a document from legal counsel, from the Indiana Department of Revenue, that let's say they collect the innkeeper's tax for August, August, then that first week in September, they will ACH that revenue to the county. So there's no lag. We don't lose any interest or anything else. And it will certainly make it a lot easier for those folks because now they can pay their food and beverage tax, which they're already doing, and now they can pay the innkeeper's tax using the in-time system. So all we've got to do is pass this. I'm going to open it up for discussion, but I had my intent this evening is to make a motion for the council to approve the request from Gary Hewitt, the president, to Susan Beavers to draft the ordinance. And the only question I have is, do we have to read this thing twice? Or can we just pass it once and be done with it?
So ordinances are two reading, they can be read at the same meeting,
Okay,
right?
It's
They can.
unanimous
It is
approval.
unanimous,
Does
right?
it, does it also require a public hearing?
It does not require a public hearing, no. This one does not. Passing a new tax requires a public hearing. Repealing this so
Okay.
that we change our process does not require a public hearing.
so we in essence, let me walk through it. We in essence tonight, if the council approves, authorize you to draft the document. I'll give you the information if you got any questions to get a hold of this Jeff Rainey guy. And then this is June, July at our regular meeting, we can come back, you'll have that document done. And as long as you all unanimously approve it, we can approve this, and then with an effective date would be August 1st. So we'd have the new innkeeper's tax rolling in 1st of July, and then everybody being able to pay it and do it online August 1st. Because if we don't, then I guess we could, theoretically, it would push out to September if everyone doesn't vote to unanimously approve it. So that's all I have to say.
Now, one wrinkle in what you were talking about, Jim, if we take this one and replace Brown County with, or replace Owen County with Brown County, this one is actually repealing their entire innkeeper's tax and reinstating it.
Right,
So
there's
we
work to
would-
do.
yeah,
Like, don't
yeah,
think that we're
yeah,
just
yeah, so-
replacing. Like, yes. You have an innkeeper's ordinance that established where you paid it. It's from 1991.
Yeah.
So, right,
So that-
I mean, you
yeah, that-
have that ordinance already on the books. So we're going to work through yours. We're going to repeal portions of it, not the whole thing. We will repeal portions so that we can file, taxes with the Department of Revenue through the in-time service. So,
Anything else?
Are we going to keep the option to pay through the treasurer, or is it going to?
No, once we pass this ordinance, essentially what we're doing is the treasurer will no longer have any involvement with innkeeper's tax at all.
Is there any,
innkeepers?
any instance that anybody knows of where anybody would need to go through the treasurer's office?
No.
Can I
Can I speak
on the innkeepers? How's this gonna play out for you all?
Well, I'm going to speak on behalf of the CVC, the Convention and Visitors Commission, and as an innkeeper. One, and I know Pam Tilton has been after me for a long time for us to be able to pay online. Susan does have the ordinance. It was created in 1991 for us to collect locally. Originally, when we started the innkeeper's tax in 1984, we paid to the state. It sometimes took months to get our money from the state. So what you collect on July 1st has to be paid to the state by August the 20th. So you really have a little bit of time to get this going, and it could be in effect so that when we go to make our first payment on the increase of the tax, it could be in place by August 20th, depending on what the state needs. So it might be September 20th, but I think the process will move pretty fast depending on the state itself. But the advantage is great because, one, while people are paying their tax by the 20th of the month, or should be paying their tax by the 20th of the month, the county treasurer has the same teeth as the auditor of the state within the Department of Revenue, but we've never pushed that. So somebody might not pay their tax till the 29th. They might not pay it till the 1st of the next month. They might not pay it till the 20th of the next month. Some people are, and you're always supposed to report zeros if they haven't rented. Some people send in quarterly payments. Some people send in zero reports at the end of a quarter. So this, by putting it online with where we are in today's age of technology, is definitely something that needs to be done. Everybody's already going online to pay their state sales tax. If they're a restaurant in the town of Nashville, they're going online to pay their food and beverage tax. There's absolutely no reason they can't go online to pay their innkeeper's tax. And we'll get it all at once because now the state has got the teeth in it. And if you don't have it paid by the 20th, you're going to pay that penalty. And that penalty is automatically added when you go in. You don't have a choice. It's automatically there. Now they don't always have to pay the penalty. you know, because we don't always use the teeth. So, and nothing against the treasurer's office, it's just, you've got to really have somebody that's enforcing the teeth, and the Department of Revenue has that, so. I think it's great.
Who gets the penalty, the state or us?
The state.
Anyone else? Okay, I authorize Susan to write up an ordinance for that, next meeting.
Thanks, everybody. Just checking, is everybody on the council all good with this? Okay.
Okay, next item on the agenda is discuss the monthly financial report. Jim, this is from the finance committee.
Yeah, here we are.
It's on the screen.
And I'll give one to, oh, you have one?
Thank you.
Got a couple extra.
All right, as you, council, are aware, several weeks ago, I had a couple-hour meeting with Jerry Hickman, who's our connection with Reedy Financial. And Jerry and I went through, and this is the initial product that they developed based off of our conversation. And the one thing I want to say right before I start, how many people in the room would buy a car without a dashboard? Okay, think about it, no tag, no speed limit, no fuel tank, or no fuel gauge. And over the last 30 months as a council member, I come in here in these, regular sessions, and I've been extremely frustrated because I don't have a dashboard. So this 3-page document, think of it in the concept of a dashboard. So, and the other thing is a disclosure that we got, because I told Jerry this morning when I talked to him that we're going to have to put a disclosure on this document, that the numbers, first of all, the numbers you're going to look at in here are just a, frozen point in time. The very next day they change. And the big issue is the auditor's office, the staffing in the auditor's office, the pay grades, and the auditor's office's ability to be able to accurately post receipts, which is revenues, and to be accurately and consistently stay on top of disbursements. Because if we don't track those receipts and disbursements, or I like to call them revenues and expenses, same thing, then the math here isn't accurate. All right, so for example, and this first page, what this first page does, as you can see, is it rolls through. There are a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 primary funds. And for those in the audience, a fund is not a mutual fund. A fund is a source of revenue the county receives. So just think of it as a bucket of money that we, as a county, receive. And the primary funding source is the general fund. So if we take a look at that top line, what you're going to see is the 2025 beginning cash value was $34,63,870. So roughly $3.5 million. Year-to-date revenues, and as a council, we're going to have to pay attention to the revenues. So it shows year-to-date, this was into May 31st of this year, that we took in $3.1 million. We have spent $4,818,000, which leaves us in a year-to-date deficit of $1,007,000. So, and it shows as of the end of May, our cash reserve balance, which is the important thing that all of you need to be looking at, is these reserve balances as of the end of May. But then if you go on to the next box, 2025 projections, and again, these are all projections, they're showing that this year, in the general fund, we should receipt in $10,343,000. Well, if you look year to date, we've only receipted in, $3,100,000. So we still have a lot of revenue that we need to collect by the end of the year, and we're already, we're almost halfway through, right? And then if you move through, so it takes, there's the total spending. What was budgeted out of the general fund for the year was $9,855,000. Revenue was 10,343. Right now, looks like we're on track for, 487,000 surplus for fiscal year 2025. And if those numbers are accurate and the revenue keeps coming in, it looks like we have a potential to end the year in 25 with basically almost a $4 million surplus, which is our cash reserve balance. And keep in mind, we as a council voted or agreed that the goal on these year-end cash reserve balances should be 15% of revenues. So 15% of 10 million is $1.5 million. So if we end 2025 with 4 million, which would be great, then that means we got 2.5 million, excess revenue, or excess cash reserves. So, there's a lot of data here. I encourage everyone to go through and familiarize yourself with the format, familiarize yourselves with the funds. We can discuss this in depth, a special session if you want to do that. Next page is,
Hey, Jim,
yeah,
on that first page, 17, 18 funds, core funds, far right, 25 year-end projected cash revenue or reserve percent.
right.
I see one that's 3%, everything else is above 15%.
Yeah, it's the health insurance trust fund.
Yeah. So, I mean, am I reading that right, that our funds are actually above, in pretty good shape in terms of our reserves?
Currently, yeah.
Yeah, why?
Yeah, you gotta keep in mind on that 4,700, all right? That 4,700 account, I mean, I don't really look at that as a fund,
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Because we have to appropriate, like this year, in 26, we may have to come up with 2.2 million for group medical for 26, right? So the challenge with that, that the revenue that rolls into that trust fund, that health trust fund, keep in mind, is coming out. Like, for goodness sakes, there's $1.1 million that we pull out of the general fund, out of the commissioner's budget, just for that 4,700 fund, right? So
I'm trying to reconcile some of the doomsday reporting we've heard about the county's budget in the last couple of months from others, and how do I reconcile that with what we're seeing?
Yeah, well, but now hang on a minute. Okay, we're not, look, the county's not broke. So the treasurer has plenty of money in the treasurers, right? So we got money. At issue is the trajectory and where we're headed in 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, right? And if we're not careful and we don't pay attention to the revenues and we're not paying attention to the expenses, we're not paying attention to employee benefits, paid time off, labor costs, we could catch ourselves, we could be very easily, what would we do right now as a council if there was a quadrant one, important and urgent, that hit the commissioner's office, and the commissioners are in here saying we need $1.8 million? Where in the world would we find $1.8 million in cash right now if we had some sort of crisis, unbeknownst to us, something shows up unexpectedly, out of the blue, we're in trouble? Because we don't have, our rainy day fund, matter of fact, the rainy day's in here, 231,921. We voted, if you think back, we voted on a resolution to get the rainy day fund up to $2.5 million. We also voted on a resolution to overfund the 4,700 count by $1 million. Well, that's $3.5 million. And so, yeah, we're not, it's not the end of the world. But on the flip side of the coin, there's certain issues we haven't addressed to figure out how do we build up the rainy day fund? How do we make sure that 4,700 group medical account has got excess revenues in it? Because, God forbid, if something happens, let's say, we lost our reinsurance contract and now all of a sudden, Brown County is liable for every medical claim that comes in. Well, that would be a train wreck. So we've got this dashboard, it's a format. Keep in mind, this is a work in project or work in progress. So, we need to learn the format, work with Reedy, if there's changes we need to make, but this is the format we're gonna receive every 30 days. So we can stay on top of this, and then people like Patrick Nylander, this will help you to familiarize yourself with the primary funds you need to be focusing on. So we can use it as an educational tool, we can use it as a tool to help educate the public, to increase their awareness of how government operates, what the funding sources are, so on and so forth. Does that help? I mean, it's more words than I really needed to spend, but I get paid by the word, so. So this next page is just, all this is, we've broken it down by departments, all right? And this is specifically the general fund, because the general fund, these departments all get funded out of that general fund, and the general fund's our biggest source of revenue, $10 million. So what this says is, quick down and dirty, 2025 adopted budget, here's the expenditures through May 31st of 2025, here's the remaining appropriation, and based off the end of May, they should have been at 58.33, so anyone below that, they're spending their money a little faster, and hopefully they're going to slow that spending down on the second half of the year, because based on their current burn rate, they can find themselves out of money by the end of October. So, and then you all know what happens when they run out of money, they come in here and say, hey, we need more money because we spent too much. So everything highlighted in yellow are those areas that are under, that 58.33. And then the second page goes through, the rest of the second page on that one goes through the other funding sources for, because it's, like for example, the commissioners have got economic development, they got QCAP development, lit public safety, I believe is in the share. Clint, I've got a copy of this if you want to.
I would love it. Thank
Yeah, and I'm going to email it to you as well in PDF.
Okay.
I believe lit public safety sits in the sheriff's department, right, I think. And then you got motor vehicle highway, and you can see as you read through it. But challenge you to familiarize yourself with the format, because we'll have one of these in July and August. And
I like it.
Thank you.
Yes,
cool. Thanks.
very good. Keep this up, a year from now, we'll know the trends secondhand inherently internalized.
Gary, the
Comment. I'm just wondering if this format is adopted, will these sheets be available online on the county website?
I can't think of any reason why we wouldn't put it on a county
Well,
website.
that's what I'm asking. Please do.
Yeah, Gary, can you do that?
Yeah, we'll do that. Good. Okay. All right,
Is that it? Motion to adjourn?
that's all she wrote.
Second.
Motion to adjourn, second. 45 minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
You have the contract. I like it.
It's me to look to see how
Okay.